Want some, get some. How about those friggin' Pirates?
Yes, I am a pirate.
You have to go with the Pirates because, of course, they have cannons and everything.
It's a pirate's life for me.
Be proud of who you are and what you are. You're Pirates.
It is a first down. Pirates.
Because when you're at East Carolina, you go for it every time. Or you don't coach at East Carolina, you don't come to East Carolina, you don't play at East Carolina with a weak heart. Write it.
I don't think I've ever been in a building as loud as that was. It was deafening in there.
We will get to Omaha. I can promise you that.
Red and purple all night long in Eastern North Carolina.
You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
Yeah. My heart is purple and gold. I'm a pirate down to my soul. And I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode.
All right, welcome in to the Sports Objective. A very special night, ladies and gentlemen, our 2024 football season preview. And with us right now, let's first start off in the great Kyle from LaGrange. Bob, how are you?
What's going on, Dave? 2024 football season is upon us. Finally here. Glad to be back, full steam ahead with everybody on board, all four of us here as we get ready to preview the upcoming season and what will be. Right now, we're going 12-0.
Sounds good to me. And he's back from his summer hiatus from China Grove, North Carolina. He is the one and only, and he's a guy who played football at Averett University for there in their Averett University. That's in Danville, right, Bubba?
Yeah, Danville, Virginia, Division III program. Yeah. For those that are familiar with Guilford College, Greensboro College, we were in the same league with Greensboro, also Methodist, Christopher Newport up in the Tidewater area. So yeah, and good to be back talking some Pirate football. It's hard to believe that as we're here on a Sunday night, less than 13 days to kickoff. Hopefully this time, a little less than 13 days from now, we'll be wrapping up a comfortable win against Norfolk State and getting ready to head to ODU.
No doubt. And former linebacker under Coach Steve Logan, one of the best ever. I tell you what, I'll put that linebacking core, that linebacking room is one of the best. I'm talking about Matt Semenza, 49 for the Pirates. I'll never forget him. And glad that we've been lucky for the last 4 seasons more here on the Sports Objective to have him with this commentary.
Thanks very much, Dave. What's up, guys? Here we are. When I talked to you guys 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was not ready to let summer go. I wasn't in football mode yet, but not only do the Pirates start in 2 weeks, but next weekend, you have a handful of games. Like Florida State, I think, plays Georgia Tech.
Yep.
Not tremendous games, but hey, nonetheless, it's football, and I'm excited to talk with you guys tonight and catch up on Pirate football.
Hey,
Florida State, Georgia Tech, and some other games, but also of note next weekend on ABC will be Norfolk State against Florida A&M as they play the HBCU kickoff game. So we get to preview our opponent next weekend on ABC.
Hey, Matt, by the way, I got a road trip for us. So Kyle says we're going 12-0. You heard it right there. And so
yeah, don't hold me to
that. If we go 12-0, are you going to host like a big pool party for us next summer, man? A big party?
Oh man, listen, if we can win 8 games this year, considering the season we're coming off of last year, and I think we should win 8, but I'll have the party with 8. How about that?
Hey, that sounds great.
Now, is that 8 with a bowl game, or is that 8 regular season?
That's 8 regular season. I'm not lowering my. I gotta have 8 for the regular season and then the bowl game.
Okay, so 9 overall is what you're saying.
Yeah, 9 overall.
Hey, so 8-4. So you're going 8-4, and then we win the bowl game. And I'm going with Kyle. I like the fact that December in Florida, Boca Bowl. I'll take the Boca Bowl.
Yeah, I'm. We'll get into predictions for the season, but a lot of football to be played before then.
And we've got a huge audience, guys. Thank you so much to the men and women listening. to us. And I know, Bubba, we'll get to those comments in just a little bit. It's great to have everybody back, but we're back in full swing, so to speak. And guys, it's just hard to believe the summer is gone. My kids are going to go back to school on the 26th. When does Chase go back to school, Matt? Are you guys already back in?
Yeah, so we don't start school here until September 7th. So we have some time and, trying to enjoy every bit of it.
I know Bubba's he's already got the early start. What, the second week, Bubba?
Yep. It was supposed to be that previous week, but then Tropical Storm Debbie, led to those 2 days becoming work days. And so we've been in school with students now for 5 days instead of that 7.
All right, so looks like that we got that time to start talking about football. Very excited, guys. I saw Stevie fly. Stevie, did you guys win this past?
They lost. They lost pretty badly. They had a lot of turnovers. They were going into score at Northeast Academy. We're talking about our partner Stevie Fly. Me and Stevie do a show together during the season. He's the head coach of Northeast Academy up in the northeastern part of the state, as you could probably tell by the name. But no, they lost Friday night, their season opener.
Well, that was disappointment. But high school football starting on Friday, and yours truly going to be the host of the voice, if you will, of the. I know Bubba loves it, the Gators. So go Gator, right, Bubba? So the Martin County School Gators. So look,
Corinne Brown, or have you said her name? I mean, that was back during the Urban Meyer era down in Gainesville when they won back-to-back national titles, and Miss Brown, as she said, she would like to congratulate Coach Urban Meyer and the University of Florida Gators on their victory. So go Gator.
There you go. So we're gonna we'll have that for you in the link, obviously in the Sports Objective. We'll have that for you on Fridays to give you a chance to listen to the game if you'd like to. Myself and another East Carolina graduate, Hank Tice, former Williamston High School Tiger, and of course football coach. So the two of us will be doing those games. Looking forward to that. And another new guy to our show, fellas, behind the scenes. He's going to be helping us out at press conferences. Christian Bateman also is going to be helping us out some high school football as well. Let's get things started. Obviously, we want to talk Pirate football. That's why we've got this huge audience. So we appreciate, again, so much. And I tell you, guys, where do we start? Let's start with offensive.
How about quarterback? That's what everybody wants to talk about, Dave. We named our starting quarterback yesterday with Jake Garcia. Obviously, I think most people expected Caden Hauser to win it. He came in from Michigan State, started 7 games for the Spartans last year, but got beaten out by Jake Garcia. A lot of people were surprised by that. Jake was highly recruited coming out of high school. Did some things at Miami, started a couple games down there, played, I believe, in 8 total. Didn't win the starting job in 22, didn't win the starting job in 22 after an injury in 21. And so he transferred out, tried to win the starting job in Missouri last year, didn't win it. So he transferred here and beat out Caden Hauser for the starting job. I have my own theory on why, a lot of people are surprised by it. He's got a hell of an arm. If you've watched video on him, he throws the deep ball wonderfully. But still Hauser with the starting experience in the Big Ten, people think he's a little more accurate. But I have my own theory of why I think Garcia won the starting job. You guys tell me what you think of this. Bubba and Matt both played. But how Garcia was at Miami, I believe, under 2 OCs. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe he had 2 different OCs at Miami. Then he went to Missouri where they run a spread, completely different offense. Now he comes here. 5 years of experience in college systems, even though he's just a junior, but played multiple systems. Hauser was just at Michigan State, where I believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, they run a pro-style system.
Yeah.
My guess is Garcia's got a better grasp of the offense or more of the offense because he's learned more offenses, and Missouri's offense is a spread. That's my theory, is Garcia right now allows us to do more because my guess is he has a better grasp of more of the offense than Hauser does. What do you guys think of that theory?
It's hey, look, it looks very good because when you look at Hauser, another thing I thought about Kyle is, remember I know that everybody's going to laugh when I say this, but my first reaction was, remember when we were talking about, we previewed a little bit of the college football game and Garcia was rated higher, I think it was a 70. It wasn't much higher, but that's another thing I thought about too, is that, can that video game be wrong in the day and age where there's all kinds of stats? Matt, Bubba, Kyle, what do you think? That was my thought.
Yeah, I mean, you always wonder how that stuff comes together, and that they come in and they sit down with the coaching staff, and so that thought did cross my mind, Dave. And by all accounts, from everything we hear, it was a neck and neck race,
Right.
guys. Like they were very close. I think Kyle has a good thought there earlier. I also think really, one of the things this comes down to for me is when you roll out the basketball term, when you start playing football here in 2 weeks, you got to put a quarterback on the field. Who do you trust the most to win the game? And I think right now the staff just has a little more faith, a little more trust in Garcia. Now, that's not a knock to Hauser, certainly. He could be just a step behind right now. There's also some talk that maybe he's dealing with some kind of an injury we heard about, and has been for a while. So, that's what it comes down to for me. When you really look at it, when the first game comes around, who do you trust the most that's going to go out there, going to be able to run the offense, handle the pressure, and win games? So that's the way I see it right now.
Bubba, what are your thoughts?
Can't say that I'm certainly not stunned. Mildly surprised at best. If I'd have had to have picked, I would have probably gone with Hauser. But from the time I saw film on Jake Garcia, loved what I saw, and heard. Trying to remember the source on this, and this is a show or podcast that I'd been listening to in the last few days, and I think even prior to this decision, perhaps, but said that Jake Garcia at Missouri, they really felt like he was and I'll go ahead and I'll give credit Stephen Igo on this. I think it came from his program, Hoist the Colors, on 94.3 The Game. But he had spoken to some folks at Missouri, and that they really felt like he was the number 2 quarterback, but they were trying to appease the highly touted freshman. I think that they also had in the program. That's why they put him at 3rd on the depth chart. But from the Miami film that I saw, definitely looked good in that playing time that he got. He was able to lead them to a win, it seems like, up in Charlottesville in one of those starts. And, definitely can make all the throws, as we've heard Coach Houston say throughout camp. And, I look forward to seeing how John David Baker, and we'll certainly dive more into JDB and this new offensive staff here in just a couple minutes probably, but interested to see how he utilizes Jake Garcia in the quarterback run game.
Is there a reason that comment's been on the screen for so long now?
I left it up since we were talking about Jake Garcia.
Okay, got you.
But Robert Dedrick chimed in just saying 2021 ESPN 300 recruit on Jake Garcia was 24th overall. And then the 4th best quarterback, or at least pocket quarterback. For reference, Caleb Williams was 17 and J.J. McCarthy 26.
We were told Hauser was a little bit more mobile than Garcia, though I've seen some film Garcia can run. Whatever nagging injury, I don't think it's anything serious that Hauser's dealing with. I don't want to reveal too much. It's nothing that's going to keep him from playing. But if it limits his mobility, then you're taking away one of Hauser's weapons. So that could be another thing that the reason Garcia got the nod. If Hauser's mobility is limited, then there's one of his weapons gone. Garcia has got a cannon now. He's a bit of a gunslinger. One thing he's got to do is, he's 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in his playing time. Got to make sure he doesn't throw a lot of picks, but he ain't scared to throw the ball. It ain't going to be like Mason Garcia where he's scared to throw. I can tell you that much from film I've seen.
Good point here by Jonathan chiming in on YouTube. He says, I honestly think Garcia won the battle because, 1, his experience to this point, and 2, his style of play fits his offense better. Michigan State, very conservative approach. and then obviously that's where Caton Hauser started 7 games a year ago, and then Jake Garcia a little bit more open of an offense at Miami, and then even last year, even though he was just practicing Mizzou and Eli Drinkwitz, very explosive offensively.
Yeah, he's kind of saying the same thing I did, just a little bit more subside with what he
Right.
said. But yeah, kind of the same thing.
Guys, too, the other thing is when you watch Ole Miss, just through the years, their quarterbacks have a great ability to improvise and make plays. And you'll see them run quite a bit. You'll see them make plays with their feet. That's just something to look out for as well, the ability to improvise and make plays. And, that could be another reason why Garcia came out a step ahead. We'll have to see in a few weeks. I'll tell you one thing, the thing that I feel great about is the fact that we have an opener against Norfolk State, which is really it's the perfect situation this year considering the quarterback situation. Obviously, last year, a very difficult spot to open up when you have 2 quarterbacks who had barely played in the big house. Yeah, in the big house, at Michigan against a who was about to become a national champion. Tough spot. You got to feel good about coming into the situation against Norfolk and kind of get your feet under you a little bit and just get some actual game experience going.
Yeah,
No
we played
doubt.
very
Norfolk
well.
State's a much easier opponent to open with Garcia at the helm. When you talk about feeling good about things, well, we got the starting quarterback from Michigan State as our backup. That ain't bad. So you haven't got to be scared to death, to let Garcia pull it down and run it if he needs to, because you got Hauser standing there on the sideline. But Norfolk State, we'll get into that more later on in the show. But you certainly hope we don't have to do much in that game to win it. Although we've been beaten by FCS opponents in the past. I think our defense should probably keep that in check. We don't have to put up a lot. But the following week after that ODU is really where we're going to find out what we are, or at least what we are early.
And Christian says, will they split reps in the Norfolk State game?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
I would say what they would do is if it's way big, but if there's an injury, they're going to hold him out, Christian.
No. It's not that kind of injury. It's an injury he would play with.
Okay.
My hope is we play well enough where Caton Hauser can play the majority of the fourth quarter.
Correct. They won't be splitting reps. Garcia's going to be playing and getting the majority of the reps. But, yes, I would think if we're up big against Norfolk State, and we should be, but who knows? Hey, we played close games against FCS opponents before, Towson, and a couple years ago against
A&T we
Charleston
lost.
Southern. Well, no. Some of the times we won. Towson and against Charleston Southern, and and we all panicked, and we ended up being a good football team. So I was going somewhere with that and lost my train of thought. But yes, if we're up big, we'll see Hauser. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kind of along those lines, very, very quickly, Matt, because you were on this team, this was your junior season in '96. Obviously, a lot of expectations. Turned out to be a very good 8-3 season because of the bowl system. Did not go to a bowl, but you'll recall we opened at home against East Tennessee State. Very good FCS team that year. They went 8-3, and it seems like maybe beat App State, who was a playoff type of team. But the Bucks gave us everything we wanted, and we pulled away late third and fourth quarter.
Yeah, and to that point, you never know what you're going to get in week 1 of college football. You just never know. And we've seen 100 examples through the years of teams that just weren't ready for whatever reason, and they wind up in a dogfight in their opener against what's considered a lesser team. So, yeah, I mean that's an example, Bubba, and you just never know in week 1 because the separation hasn't really started yet. But just one final point I wanted to make on the quarterback situation. Whoever it was going to be, and now obviously we know it's Garcia. Put your full faith and support behind him. We can't get in the situation of revolving quarterbacks. Let's be decisive. Let's stick to our guns on this, so to speak, and put our full support behind him. Because when you get into a situation where you're not really settled and you're rotating guys, that can be very difficult to run an offense that way. So I truly hope Garcia is the guy and everything works out. And hopefully we're in a situation where, it's a comfortable enough lead where Hauser can play some in that first game. That would be great.
No, from everything the staff has said, whoever won the starting job was going to be the starter. Picks, whatever, within reason. If you go out there, say week 2 against ODU, and you come out and throw 3 interceptions in the first half, yeah, you'll probably see Hauser in the second half. But besides something like that, no, I think Garcia is going to get a full shot at it. I think he's going to have to lose the job. I don't think it's going to be a rotating battle. I hope that's the case. I hope we only see Hauser in mop-up duty, and that's nothing against Hauser. That means things are going well. I hope Garcia won the job and he keeps the job all year, because that means he stays healthy and we're having a good season. Unless you see Caden Hauser, unless it's in mop-up duty, that probably means we're winning football games.
Yeah, not only that, but we don't need to. Matt, I want to get your thoughts on Bubba as far as and Kyle, as far as that very thing of our fan base. I was thinking about this with the Raiders back in the day, their old owner, to say, just win, baby. That's what we got to do. That cures everything. And I think this fan base really, after a really miserable 2-10 season, we don't like to talk about it, but that's the past. But coming off a 2-10 season, they've done great with off season, and we're just praying that translates to a great 2024 campaign.
Certainly hope so. And what an incredible offseason it's been when you really think about how many new faces have been brought into this program. Obviously, it starts with the quarterbacks, but there's a pretty huge position at guard on the offensive line where we brought in a transfer from Maine, Darius Bell. He's a guy that's going to need to step up. So many guys like that are kind of off the radar a little bit. That were brought in this offseason that are going to have to start, and they're going to have to play really well. So it's been, obviously we've seen guys go, we've seen guys come in, but, now it's time to get on the field and make things happen. And to your point, we need to win games. Talk is cheap. It's time to win. Mike Houston in year 6. Like I said, we need to win at least 8.
Yeah, I think 2 things you just mentioned there that I want to touch on. In terms of winning at least 8, to make you happy, and I hope we win 8. Yeah, but 7-5, he'll keep his job. 6-6, he might keep his job depending on how we get there. But we need to win football games. There ain't no doubt about it. It starts week 1 against Norfolk State. But you talked about transfers. You talked about the kid from Maine who's playing guard, was a all-conference player at the FCS level. Another guy me and Bubba were talking about earlier via text is another Missouri transfer, the linebacker. His name escapes me right now. Bubba, help me out. He's a kid who's played a lot of football at Missouri up until last year.
Damian Wilson,
yes, played a lot of football at Missouri up until last year. For whatever reason, fell out of favor with the coaching staff last year. Did not see the field much, but he's a kid who started at Georgia, had a lot of tackles in that game. So he's a kid that should be effective for us. Bob, you want to talk about him some?
Yeah, we can. I thought if you guys would like, we can kind of talk about some of the
I
offense.
was going to hit on portal guys is what I was doing now. But if you want to go offense, defense, that's fine.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. And then we can hone in on each side of the ball. But yeah, Damian Wilson, he's a kid that's originally from the state of North Carolina, the western part of the state. Like Kyle mentioned, as a freshman or redshirt freshman at Mizzou, had the chance to get a couple of starts, and those came against the Georgia Bulldogs and Florida Gators. I think he played in 11 or 12 games, had 16 total tackles, and then last year, and I know he started the game, I believe it was against South Dakota or South Dakota State, whoever they played. But additionally from the portal, Anthony Smith, the transfer from NC State, runs a legit 4.3 40. Huge addition, and we've heard a lot of great things about him.
Projected to start.
We knew he was going to be a deep threat, but he's also looked good on the short and intermediate routes per Coach Houston and John David Baker. And then also Winston Wright.
Winston Wright, Bubba.
Winston Wright began his career at West Virginia, had about 130 catches during his time in Morgantown.
All Big
Also
12.
took, yep, very, very proven guy in the Big 12. Took 2 kickoffs to the house. I know one of which was at Baylor. And then, unfortunately, after transferring to Florida State, was in a car wreck, and that limited the amount of snaps he saw there for the Seminoles. But just very excited about him, and uh, you heard about what he was bringing to the table. You wonder how he would mesh with the culture and in the locker room, and you've heard from the quarterbacks as well as the coaches, he's been nothing but a team first, just the epitome of what you want in your locker room. So that's great to hear.
A couple of big tight end transfers. The kid from Ole Miss that transferred to Oregon, who is going to be starting for us.
Casey
Caught a
Kelly.
lot. Casey Kelly, yeah, he's caught a lot of touchdown passes at Oregon. Very talented kid. Casey Kelly should get the ball in his hands a lot. And then we had another transfer from Mississippi State at tight end. Talented kid, maybe hadn't played at all at Mississippi State, but very talented. Somebody want to help me with his name?
That would be Javante Connor, I believe. Bubba, do I have that name right?
Correct. And he's one of those that Coach Houston said he's almost freakish, some of his abilities, but he and then some of those freshman running backs really working on making that transition to the Division One college football. I mean, specifically those running backs, but he said that Javante is just a supreme talent, but trying to get him to not be so hard on himself. Yes, have high expectations, but when things don't go well, to keep things in perspective and move forward. But yeah, Casey Kelly, he's a guy that has been in John David Baker's scheme at Ole Miss, and then like Kyle mentioned, had a couple touchdown catches last year at Oregon. I think 5 receptions total, but used, I think, in a variety of ways there with the Ducks. And then he's a guy that has some flexibility. And then also don't forget about Tyler Savage. Tyler didn't have a ton of catches in 2022, but looked good when we did throw it his way. And then also played a decent number of snaps a year ago.
And staying with the portal guys, the running back for Penn State. Guys, any new listeners we have, I think we may have some new listeners tonight and the following days when this is archived. I am notorious for not knowing people's names. I promise you I know what I'm talking about. I just do not remember names. But the running back from Penn State that transferred here is another guy that's going to add some depth to the running back room. Somebody want to give me his name?
I believe it's Montgomery, correct? Do I have that right, Bubba? London Montgomery, is that right?
You do.
How about that, Kyle?
Hey, well, Matt, you know what? You're pretty good with names, so it doesn't surprise me. But yeah, London Montgomery, another kid, very talented. You don't see too many slouches running backs at Penn State, but that room's got a lot of depth anyway. But he adds more to it. Anybody else from the portal guys that we need to mention?
I can just give a little color on him as well.
Well, we
really
know you're a closet Penn State. Well, not even a closet Penn State fan. You're almost a bigger Penn State fan than you are East Carolina fan.
Well, hey, now let's not go crazy. Let's not go crazy. But Penn State's definitely up there for me. I love, I'm a Big Ten guy, but hey, Penn State. If you can play running back, if you get a scholarship to Penn State to play running back, there's ability there. There's a lot of talent. He was a highly recruited guy in high school, but what happened with him is he had some injuries, and it kind of slowed him down the last couple of years. He's been dealing with that. You always see anytime somebody has a knee injury, it takes a few years to come back from that. So, he had fallen down the depth chart a little bit there. Hopefully he is healthy and he's able to, make a contribution to this team. When he's healthy, he's definitely a difference maker. But, great pickup by the staff late in the season to bring him in because you can never have enough depth at running back.
Any other portal additions we need to mention before we Change topics.
Yeah, you have Aiden Duncanson from UNC, and then you have Gavin Gibson coming over from Maryland.
What are their positions, Bubba?
They are both defensive backs.
There you go. So more depth in that room where we already are pretty talented.
Gavin Gibson addition was a huge addition, guys, and the reason why is Kingston McGinstry, who's been slated to be the starter this year, and played really well last year at times. He's dealing with an injury right now, and he's missed the last few weeks. So, as we know, depth is key right now in college football. So to have a guy like Gibson from Maryland who's playing well by all accounts, and depending on McKinstry's health, we could see Gibson in the opener at nickel for the Pirates.
Another is Andrew Wilson Lamp from West Virginia.
Yeah, that's another great addition, and a guy who's
and he's also a defensive back.
Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off, Bubba. There was a little lag. Go ahead.
Oh, that's all I had. And he's a guy that he was I guess at least a part-time starter at West Virginia. I think he'd started several games in the Big 12, and then top 2 guy on the depth chart, when he wasn't starting. And then, yes, like Robert Dedrick said, you have offensive line transfer from the University of Houston, Carson Jones. And certainly appreciate that. Robert had not forgotten about him. Here in a moment when we really hone in on the offensive side, we're going to break it down. We've already mentioned some of that personnel, but we'll go through it, running backs, tight ends, etc.
One more transfer, guys, or actually I think he's a grad transfer, and it's the kid from Ohio State who's a defensive tackle, and his name is escaping me. Bubba, I need your help with that one.
Yeah, he's originally from Wake Forest. I'll double check that name.
Is it Jaden McKenzie? Is that him?
That sounds right. I was wanting to say McKenzie for the last name. I was trying to confirm that first name.
Yeah, I have Phil Steele's magazine in front of me, thank God. But another big body.
And you were correct. It is Jaden McKenzie.
Yeah. So another big addition from I guess he's not a portal guy. He's a grad transfer. So, yeah, love that pickup.
Hey, guys, I want to mention a point real quick, and that is, Matt, I know you've been working hard in your apartment at the transfer portal. Hopefully you've got everything stocked up, ready to go. But one of the things that's helped us for the transfer portal is certainly NIL. We've talked about it a lot on here, guys, but I know, Bubba, you had that stat. I wanted to pitch it to you because you're our numbers guy. But the numbers for NIL for Team Boneyard, let's give them a shout out. Team Boneyard and all the subscribers that are helping out, the donors, it's really made a huge difference this year, at least on my outside looking in from my eyes.
Yeah, I'll give credit here. Stephen Igo and Hoist the Colors on 94.3 The Game. It was the interview that I listened to this week. He had David Free of Team Boneyard on. He said is roughly $900,000 that we were working with for this year, for football. And then he really emphasized multiple times throughout that show, it's imperative between now and the end of November. So these next 3.5 months or so, that we really raise a lot of money, because that's the money that we're going to be putting to use in January or December, January, and early February. But really, primarily, there in December, the way it is now with the mid-December signing day.
Yeah, and winning will do that. If we go out there and have success, and it's proven that this money we've spent via NIL in the transfer portal equals winning, then it's going to be a lot easier to get more of it. So in this day and age in college football, NIL is pretty much, if you don't have a decent NIL fund, you're probably not going to be very successful in college football anymore. So it is vital, and winning will help with that big time.
Look at that, Robert. He said he bought his Team Boneyard merchandise this weekend. Jump on board, Pirate Nation. And Kyle helped me, and Kyle and Matt help me out on this, but they have I know from Sup Dogs they have that crushed vodka. There's been a big
they got a purple crushed vodka out that proceeds from that goes to Team Boneyard. They have a merch website now on the Team Boneyard. What is teamboneyard.com? What is the Team Boneyard URL?
teamboneyard.org, and we'll put that link up, not only for the website, but then also the merch, before the end of the show.
Yeah, I got
And
t-shirts, hats.
like Dave mentioned, yeah, they have polos, I believe. Definitely t-shirts, hats. Also, recently they unveiled their tailgating flags, a nice big tailgate flag, for guys like Jared Plummer that have those, and then also car flags.
Hey,
yeah, I would anybody from Team Boneyard's listening. And by the way, you can join Team Boneyard for as little as $10 a month. As little as $10 a month, you can join Team Boneyard. Yeah, and then if you want to give more, give more. But by the way, for the folks at Team Boneyard, fat people are members of Team Boneyard also. So it'd be nice if you went a little bigger than 2X in your T-shirts. I am losing weight, but I'm not there yet. So how about something for the big and tall fellers, guys? A little 3X, a little 4X. That'd be nice.
Yeah, we'll pay $2 or $3 more, right, Kyle?
Exactly. I mean, hell, you got people like Bubba, who's lean, trim, slim, and muscular, who likes to wear a 2X for some damn reason. So, somebody like me that right now my fat ass needs a 4X.
I wear an XL. I got long arms, but
well, you were wearing a 2X at one point because you requested it when I ordered you a shirt one time.
Well, that's just in 100% cotton because I know it's going to shrink up to an XL.
Okay, I got you. But no,
yeah. So even now in 100% cotton, I do wear I do wear an XL just in case it doesn't shrink as much as I would like because I don't like a baggy shirt. But continue on.
But I like to show off the guns. But yeah, so some big and tall sizes would be appreciated.
Let's got to give a shout out to Pirate Owl. If he says if he were a billionaire, that he would have 5-star studs all over the roster. And I can't help it. I'm not making the comparison. You would look like him, Pirate Owl. But as far as remember Boss Hog, and he had that long Cadillac with the horns on it.
The white Cadillac convertible. Yes,
Alan, I'm not saying you look like Boss Hog, so don't put me in the bad dude column, whatever. But I can see Pirate Owl with this really cool car and with a cigar in his mouth, and then with if he wins the 300 or 400 million, what is it? Mega Millions is up to like 464 million, maybe plus. So Pirate Owl wins that, then man, we have like facilities all over the place. All right, we're down to Kyle now. Everybody's on camera except for Kyle.
Yeah, I'm not getting on camera.
Okay.
I got more weight to lose.
All right,
guys, we want to get into a position. Look at Matt with the guns, just sitting there posing with his arms crossed. Yeah, but we want to get down to the positions right now. What do we want to start, offense or defense?
We'll start off with the offense.
All right. Well, go ahead, bud.
First, before we dive into the offensive personnel, we got to talk about the offensive coaching staff. The lone guy returning, Darrell Roberts. Definitely, obviously, clearly, Coach Houston thought that he needed to remain with the program, doing such a great job and very close relationship with a lot of the receivers, but Chase Sowell specifically referenced his relationship with Coach Roberts and how glad he was going to be with this new offensive staff. But John David Baker, the offensive coordinator, coming over from Ole Miss, where he was co-offensive coordinator, just did not have those play calling responsibilities. And he's been around guys, clearly Lane Kiffin, but also had been with Clay Helton at USC, and been around guys that were on that Mike Leach tree, like a Graham Harrell. So definitely loved the hire. He brought Rodney Freeman in to coach the running backs from Utah State, and Coach Freeman said that it was once he was pursued or found out that this job was a possibility. It was a no-brainer for him. He was well aware of the background with East Carolina and Pirate Nation and everything our program has from a potential standpoint. And then you have Hunter McKay coming up from Ole Miss to coach the tight ends. So obviously a good rapport there between he and JDB. And then really like the offensive line hire, a guy who had been the offensive line coach at Texas, and not too far into the past. And you hear a lot of good things about him already, and that's Matt Maddox.
Yeah, by the way, we got another. Hey, we have an NIL deal for you, Matt, for TSO. James says that Matt with the guns, LOL, you might want to do a Guys of the Sports Objective calendar for the women of Pirate Nation.
Jesus Christ.
Oh,
James.
man. James.
Would you be okay with that as long as you bring in a lot of money for the NIL?
I would have been like 20 years ago, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Norm, I'll have that clock back very soon. I'm in a different room today.
Oh, he said clock. He said clock. I didn't see the L.
I got bounced out of that room tonight.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Yeah, this is a family show. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate that very much. We'll get the – so Robert wants to know, you guys, for Bubba, Matt, your thoughts on offensive coordinator John David Baker, his first time calling plays, or you can basically, I guess, he's asking, are you concerned, is my gut feeling.
So, I'll jump in on that first. Certainly not concerned. I feel pretty good about where we are with John David Baker and his ability to call plays. He does bring experience. So I feel really good about him. I think more than anything, the first game we've seen in college football, you're going to have ups and downs, and you never know quite what you're going to get in week one. So I think what he's going to try to do is get the quarterback comfortable. Maybe just sort of limit the offensive playbook early in that game to kind of get everybody on the same page, get everybody playing together. And then as the game goes on, I think you're going to see things start to open up a little bit, but feel really great about JDB. Now we just need to go out and execute, but there will be some growing pains. Anytime you install a new offensive system and bring in new coaches, there's going to be some growing pains on that side of the ball. So once again, very thankful we have Norfolk State this year as the opener.
Bubba, what about you? You got any concerns about John David Baker for first time calling plays?
Well, obviously there's a learning curve there. It's the first time he's done it. But at the same time, you think back that Tulsa game in 2010, that was just the second time that Lincoln Riley had called plays in the game. I mean, he'd called plays in that bowl game for Texas Tech against Michigan State. And that worked out pretty well for us. So yes, there's clearly some. I'm sure there will be some growing pains, but I do think they'll be more minimal. If I had to guess, I just have a really a good gut feel about JDB, and JDB is what 32, maybe 33. He's at least 5-6 years older than Lincoln Riley was when Lincoln Riley became our OC.
Yeah, I just my comments on it. Go ahead, Bubba. Finish your thought.
One other thing I wanted to add is that at Ole Miss, I remember John David Baker saying this, and this was certainly not surprising. He said that there were certain times during intra-squads, I'm sure during spring ball, as well as maybe in the fall, but probably more so in the spring, where they would split up, and he would call it, and Coach Kiffin, that was for multiple reasons. I'm sure, to get him that experience in case anything did happen, and just to develop a better understanding of the offense, and just to have everybody in a position where they were more well-rounded for the Rebels, and that is not surprising. I can see Lane Kiffin being the type to not necessarily micromanage that situation and allow a young up and comer that he had a high opinion of to get his feet wet.
Yeah, my thoughts on it. Similar to the situation with Ruffin McNeil and Lincoln Riley, and I had the same concern then that I have now, but a little less then. Um, Ruffin was a defensive minded coach with a defensive background. Coach Houston's a defensive minded coach with a defensive background. So there's really nobody to rely on, you know, for John David Baker, just like there wasn't for Lincoln on staff if things go wrong, you know, above him. Because, you know, both defensive minded head coaches with Ruffin and John David Baker. The difference with Lincoln was that was the whole damn Texas Tech offensive staff that came with him. That staff had been together. It wasn't just Lincoln
Correct.
coming by himself. It was that whole staff. So they knew what to do. They were just going to go in and run Mike's stuff initially. Then Lincoln evolved it over the years. Um, less concerned there. I am concerned about that JDB hasn't called plays before, and he really can't go to Mike Houston about that because Mike's not an offensive minded guy. Mike's never been an OC. Houston, I mean. So that is a little concerning to me. But he has great resources. He has a lot of contacts from Lane Kiffin to you know all the guys from the Mike Leach tree. So you know, I'm looking forward to it. It is a similar situation to Lincoln, not exactly the same because you don't have the whole staff coming over with him from Ole Miss, but you know, going to be interesting to see what are we going to look like offensively. Are we going to look more like Ole Miss, or are we going to look more like a USC, you know, Mike Leach, Texas Tech type offense? Is it going to be somewhere in between the two?
My thing is, I was going to ask you guys. I know that Norm said this earlier, but one thing we talk about almost every year on the show and Pirate Nation is about the offensive line. I want to get your thoughts on, obviously we had a good year. We were talking about that. We'll get into the position by position if you want to go ahead and start that now, but and break it down. But guys, I'm feeling, I know that I should say, I know that Matt's probably going to say, hold on, you know, but I'm cautiously optimistic with the offensive line. I'm not saying that we're going to be like a top 25 offense or anything crazy, but I do believe with that defense we have, with the offensive line, I think it was Norm that says if we're 50% better, then we should get Matt's win totals of 8 this year.
Yeah, and you know, as we all know, and everybody who's listening tonight, everything starts up front. Everything starts up front on the offensive line. And what I see a little different this year is just in terms of scheme, set up the run through throwing the football, right? So you're a primary pass first offense, and then you're blending in the running game, as opposed to the other way around. I think when Mike Houston first came here from JMU, I think he really wanted to be a run first offense. You know, that was kind of his mentality. It was his DNA. I think what we need to move to, and we slowly have moved to that over the years, is more of a pass first team and using that to open up the run lanes. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. And, you know, I think we have offensively, by all accounts, it sounds like the offensive line has made strides this offseason. You know, we've definitely, you know, another opportunity, another year in the weight room for those guys to get more athletic, to get stronger, I think is going to serve them well. You know, you look at Parker Moore, you know, last year was his first season playing left tackle. He had been a right tackle his entire life. So that's a tough transition for guys. You know, that's not something you can just, you know, do overnight. So second year in that position, you're going to see him take a leap forward. And I think you're going to see that from a lot of the guys up front. Poku at right tackle, big body. Now he's got some experience behind him. So you definitely feel better. And, man, I hope we're at least 50% better than last year, because last year was rough. And I'm trying to be nice about it. But it all starts up front, guys. We have to be able to control the game up front.
Yeah, the O-line. I was making a quick comment, Bob. I think our starting 5 on our O-line will be decent. My concern is depth. Do we have any quality depth behind the starters? Another thing that's going to help this O-line out a lot, we're going to get rid of the ball a lot faster. This is a this is a quick pass offense. So, this offense is designed to get the ball out of the hand fast. And I would imagine, guys, traditionally in this style of offense, you take wider splits, which normally helps you because you just got to literally be responsible for the man in front of you.
Yep, and great question here from Elliot Jameson. Elliot, we'll get to that here in just a moment because that was certainly on our checklist of things to discuss tonight, and that being the new the mic in the helmet for the quarterback to communicate with the offensive coordinator or on defense. It could be anyone, but that mic backer to communicate with the defensive coordinator. But as far as the offensive line is concerned, you really have 7 to 8 guys that you can rely on, led by Dustin Hall at center. And Coach Houston said he's done a great job of being a vocal leader, and it's always great when that guy is your center. Last year, he played primarily, if not solely, guard. And then in addition to Dustin Hall, you have Hampton Ergel, a guy that kind of emerged onto the scene in that Birmingham Bowl back in 2022, and did some nice things last year. He needs to take it to another level this year. Has pretty good athleticism for a guy that's 6'5" or 6'6", and then you have, in addition to them, you have Darius Bell that you guys already referenced, the main transfer. Hearing a lot of great things about Darius and his progress. And then one of our viewers earlier mentioned Carson Jones. Matt talked about Parker Moore, Manuel Poku, and then one guy that has not been mentioned that I think would probably be that 7th guy right now that we feel like we can rely on. But Coach Houston says he just needs to see it with more consistency, and that's Jason Tarpey, the JUCO transfer.
We never got the kid from Charlotte that was played at Conley, who was a starter at Charlotte up until last year. Academically ineligible, I understand.
Panda to ask you, he actually had a couple classes that he was trying to handle. So you're saying he is ineligible? I was trying to find out.
That's what the latest I heard. Yeah.
Okay, because he couldn't start basically because of that. What had to happen is he had a couple classes to finish up at Charlotte, and then he was coming for fall camp. So I've been between working. There's a lot of
if he ain't here by now, he ain't coming.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find out from you guys behind the scenes because I haven't heard anything in the last 2 weeks.
Guys, what do we want to?
Yeah, unless it's an audio Omatosho kind of situation, then maybe he still is. But
preferred, if he comes in, he's a preferred walk-on, guys.
But yeah, so if they're not there now, I seriously doubt that's going to change. But you have the question that I referenced a couple minutes ago from Elliot Jameson saying, guys, how about the new system where the coach can talk to the quarterback? Can y'all explain how it works? So, yes, kind of like in the NFL, you have the mic in the quarterback's helmet. So that way Jake Garcia or Caton Hauser can communicate directly up in the press box, with John David Baker, which is a huge advantage because he has that bird's eye view. He can say, I think the big thing with this is, as a coach, and then also as a player, you don't want too much information to be communicated because you're trying to process it quickly and not allow it to slow us down. We want to use it to our benefit, not our detriment. And that's something I've heard from the defensive side as well, perhaps even more so. But Elliot, and the way it will work, clearly, we want to snap the ball very, very quickly. No more than probably 5 to 7 seconds. Definitely no more than 10. A lot of times than when the previous play ended. But it will cut off with 15 seconds left on the play clock. So that's the way it will work. And then our guys will still be signaling in to allow us to make sure we have a plan B if technology fails. And then something else that you didn't necessarily ask about specifically that I was thinking about this afternoon. This is something that is it's about time that it was implemented into the college game. Because I mean, you've seen for years in the NFL, you have the printouts on the sideline that the quarterbacks and also I guess the defense can look at. Um, Now this has been implemented in the high school ranks for a decade or close to it. I know back in 2015, we were using iPads on the sideline.
Right.
Then, if your school would provide you with the capabilities to take advantage of that, and that's something that's going to be a huge advantage for the quarterbacks and everybody, on both sides of the ball this year to be able to watch film on the sideline, between series or during halftime.
And Elliot's asking, he says, Bubba, can the head coach hear it and change calls, or is it just the OC only with John David Baker in our case?
Well, the head coach can always communicate with his OC. So,
right.
But he won't be able to communicate with the quarterback. But yeah, to answer the question, head coach always has override ability to change anything. But will he be able to hear the conversation? I don't think we know that for sure, but I would think so. He would be able to listen in.
But my understanding
that's a great question.
My understanding, and I could be wrong, is that there can only be one coach on that helmet set at one time, which would be JDB. So I don't think, I could be wrong, I don't think Mike Houston has the ability to listen into that conversation, so that the communication between him and the offensive coordinator is going to be separate from that. I could be wrong. It's all new, obviously, but I think Bubba makes a great point. You worry a little bit about too much information coming at the quarterback. They're going to be looking for tendencies. JDB is going to be sharing tendencies he sees. He's going to be sharing coverage, mostly like when pressure is coming or when he thinks pressure is coming to look out for a hot read or to change a protection, things like that. So there's so much good that can come out of it, but a lot of information you're trying to process at one time. And when you have more coming in, literally flooding your helmet now, you do worry about that, at least early in the season until guys get more comfortable with it.
Yeah, and guys, I wanted to mention too, real quick, as far as my sympathies go out for the quarterbacks, because if you've ever done broadcasting, radio or television, you have someone, they say, in the ear. So you've got a producer, you got a director, you got people say, all right, tell Dave to shut up. We've got to go to break now. Dave, we got to go to break now. And they're saying that in your ear as you're trying to concentrate and do a show, okay, for radio or television. I can't imagine, that's hard enough. I can't imagine being a player, a football player, and you're the quarterback, and you've got all those plays. And Bubba, you've played, I'll pitch it to you, you played quarterback. How difficult is it to have the plays in your mind and you see something because you've gone over film, you've gone over tape, and then you've got a coach in your ear until the last 15 seconds?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something I'm sure that Jake Garcia and Caton Hauser took some getting used to. They utilized it back in the spring as well. So I think at this point they're probably pretty used to it. I think the thing will be, it's certainly not necessarily, from what I've heard, that it's not high def audio by any means. So when you have 45, 50,000 people going nuts in the stands, how well are you going to be able to hear that? And could you potentially run into some issues there? That's why they'll still be utilizing the hand signals for the plan B. And go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to add to your point, Bubba, that very thing, and you said it, is Coach Houston said on the Brian Bailey show on Pirate Radio that, in other words, you're not going to just rely on technology only. You're always going to have the hand signals. So that's what I was going to add to what you were saying.
Well, the good thing is we play in the American, and if your own fans have any sense, when you got the ball, you shouldn't be loud. You get loud on defense. So on the road, playing in the American Conference, we're not going to run into that many crazy crowds. Be a nice crowd at Army. A non-conference would be nice crowds at ODU and Liberty. So, but being funny but not being funny, a lot of the places we go to in conference probably won't be an issue with the crowd noise in the mic.
You can hear a pin drop.
Exactly.
But
like
yeah,
Rice,
I'm interested.
Rice with
I'm
20 people in
interested
the
to hear. Yeah. Yeah, that not to get off on a tangent here, but that blew my mind when Warner left Temple to go to Rice of all places.
Money, baby, money.
Exactly.
Yeah, they certainly have plenty of that. But you guys, we'll move on to and we'll hone in on the same thing with the mic and the helmets. Get back to some thoughts with that as it pertains to Zakai Barker, because I think he is the one that's going to typically be communicating with Blake Harrell, and we'll circle back to that when we flip over to the defensive side of the ball here in a few minutes. But at running back, Rajay Harris. Rajay was coming off that ACL injury in 2022, mid-year down in Boca against South Florida. Last year, played from the jump against Michigan, but you really weren't getting a fully healthy Rajay. And you heard Mike Houston here recently, I believe it was his interview on last Monday with Brian Bailey, just say that this is the healthiest that Rajay Harris has been since 2020, and hopefully he can produce some moments like he did back then as a true freshman, and then also last year in that season finale against Tulsa. So you know what you're getting to a large extent with Rajay, and now just need to see it more consistently like we have in the past. And then you have Marlon Gunn. If you'd have told me last year that Marlon Gunn would only have 24 carries, I wouldn't have believed it, much less 65 yards. He didn't have more than 17 yards in a single game last year. It's just mind-boggling the way he was a non-factor. And even with our offensive woes, and then Javius Bond, who can be a real X factor with his playmaking ability. Those are going to be your three running backs. The run game will be relying on those young guys. Have a lot of growing up to do per Coach Houston. Guys like T.J. Engelman.
Yeah, Bond's a little banged up right now. He'll be healthy for the season opener, but man, I know Igo said after the first scrimmage that when he's got the ball in his hands, he looked electric out there. You saw it some last year. So if the offensive line can block a little better, and we actually have a passing game this year, I think Harrison Bond particularly, and Gunn and the rest of them can do some damage on the ground.
Yeah,
and also very quickly, Dave, a note about Marlon Gunn that I meant to mention is that he had missed at least several days of camp, and that's because he was in a car accident. And just prior to camp starting, so I think he's back and hopefully on his way to being able to be fully participating now. I'm not sure. I'll see what I can find out about that.
Matt, I was going to get to you, throw it to you, and then the other guys can chime in too. But as far as Rajay Harris is concerned, one of the things that for me, we talked about this last year, is with Bond and Marlon Gunn. They're the guys that they're so fast. I mean, the Keaton Mitchells, they're more in that school where Rajay
Gunn's got some power too. He's not.
No, I know, but I'm just saying. But Rajay has like that. Rajay has like that. If you need 3 or 4 yards to pound it in for a touchdown, or you need to pick up the first down, he's your guy. I just hope that they will use him. But I think that's the key for that room. There's so much talent in that room. They need to give. I'm not saying give to try to be equal to everybody. I'm not saying that, but we have so much talent and depth at that room that you can use guys in different plays, different roles.
Yeah. This is my opinion, but I think Raji is at his best in short yardage and goal line. He's really effective in short yardage situations. He's got really quick feet, and he can kind of pick his way through. And he's obviously a bigger back, so he's got some power behind him where he can pick up a few yards. I think that's where he's at his best. Bond is, we've talked about it. He's the home run hitter. The thing with Bond is you have to manage him very carefully as a running back because he's pretty small. He's not a big back, obviously fast as can be. But you have to manage his carries, especially early, because you don't want him to get banged up. Like we saw last year, he got banged up on a kickoff. So that was something totally different. But I would like to see Bond. This is just my opinion, guys. Happy to hear what you have to say about it, Kyle. I think Bond anywhere between 10 to 13, 10 to 14 touches a game. And when I say touches, I'm talking about runs, but also utilizing him out of the backfield, as a receiver, and possibly even to split him out to stretch the field a little bit vertically with his speed. But
his hands need to get better.
Yeah, that could be the case, for sure. But manage his carries, and then definitely, we need to mix in Marlon Gunn more, because like Bubba said, it was very bizarre last year how he just kind of disappeared from the rotation. And his true freshman year, he looked electric every time he got on the field. So I think you have a lot of options there. It's definitely a room where you have depth. Kyle, what do you think about that?
Yeah, you definitely need to get the ball in Bond's hands, but you can't overuse him because, like you said, he's a small guy. But if he can catch the ball out of the backfield, definitely utilize him in the passing game. Utilize him in space, period, no matter how you use him in the running game. Get him outside. Harris has got really good hands. You mentioned Harris, short yardage. Yes, but he also can, if he's back to 2020, he can break one. And Harris has really good hands. He's our best pass catching running back. I wish Bonds, with his speed, could get the hands that Harris has, and maybe Bond has gotten better catching the ball. But both those guys are good. Marlon Gunn, it'll be interesting to see if he's back to looking like he did as a freshman. Who knows? Last year maybe he was dealing with an injury we didn't hear about. And then some other guys in that room, like the Penn State transfer, will probably get some carries also. This offense substitutes a lot of personnel. I know Lincoln always wanted to play multiple backs, and sometimes it don't work that way. I remember when guys like Vontavious Cooper was here, he carried the ball a lot more than what Lincoln really wanted him to, because he was the guy that got better the more you lathered him up. So, but I think what this offense wants to do, just like with receiver and tight end, they want to play multiple personnel. So I think ideally we will play multiple running backs.
No doubt, and that's a key. We've got to, when Houston came here, we talked about a lot, but give the example D-line. We'll talk about defense in just a little bit and break down room by room. But the defensive line, the starters we had were decent. They were pretty good, but there was nothing behind them. And you look at every single position now, they've done a really nice job using the transfer portal with the grad transfers, with high school guys. This is the best. I want to get your thoughts really quick, guys. It's just a thought that came to mind. This year, from the signing day to transfer portal, would you say, putting you guys on the spot, would you say this is Houston and company's best recruiting class? I mean, I know it's year 6, but
out of high school, I don't,
No, I'm just talking about
counting the portal. Oh, if you're counting the portal, yeah, no doubt. If we're counting portal transfer, yes.
And we have JUCOs in there. I know people have mentioned that. You got a nice blend of everything, and we've got to keep working on. We talked about the offensive line. We had a question too about, before we go to defense, Bubba. We had a question about.
We got to finish offense. We haven't done wide receivers.
Yeah, we've got wide receivers. We talked some of those, but we talked. Sorry, go ahead, Dave, and we'll go back to the personnel.
Yeah, I was going to just mention which that was my point with the very fact of, we had a guy mention earlier about tight ends. Was it London? I can't remember, but there was a question: are we going to be using the tight ends more? And
Absolutely.
then because we had so much talent, they're asking, can we get them more involved?
And I know before we dive back into the wide receivers, I know Matt referenced this here recently. He was watching some film of Ole Miss and just the way they call a play that they ran last Mississippi State, where they faked an inside run. I think it was a zone play, and found the tight end down the seam wide open.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and talk about the tight end room, since we're talking about tight ends. We mentioned Kelly and the transfer from Mississippi State. So let's talk about the tight end room, Bubba.
Oregon, who began his career at Ole Miss. You mentioned Javante Connor, Mississippi State. And then Tyler Savage, who's a senior, played a lot of snaps for us, began his career as a wide receiver. And then now and then kind of became more of a hybrid guy. You have Garcia Riles. He's a guy that has a lot of ability and that I think will definitely see some playing time this year.
Yeah, one of the things I like about that room is you have guys with a lot of different skill sets. You know, I don't see anybody as that traditional type tight end inline blocker, just overwhelming somebody in the blocking game, in the run game. But I think you have guys you can use in different ways. I see Casey Kelly versatility, almost like an H-back, where you can use him in different positions. Plus, he can block for you. Savage is a guy you can put in the slot and match him up. He brings a lot of height and length. Desiree Riles is another guy, very athletic, who I think you can split out. You can try to match him up on linebackers. And then obviously Connor brings a lot of athleticism as well. So you have 4 guys who you can go with. Apologize for the dog in the background, but you can use those guys in a lot of different ways.
I don't think so. Does Carmelo not agree with you? Is there like house?
I don't know what he's barking about right now. He probably doesn't, but that's okay. He's you know.
He doesn't agree with your take on tight ends.
Yeah, with JDB's background,
Melo's fired up for football.
Yeah, that's what it is.
With JDB's background of coaching tight ends in this offense, I would expect we'll see a lot of balls thrown through the tight ends this year.
And then before we shift over and talk defense, on wide receivers, we mentioned guys like Anthony Smith from NC State, Winston Wright from Florida State, and who really, made his biggest contributions at West Virginia because he was healthy. As I mentioned, at Florida State, he was in a car wreck that limited his ability to contribute there. But
if Winston Wright, Bob, I just want to say this, and I'll let you go ahead with the full breakdown. I just want to say this: if Winston Wright is healthy like he was at West Virginia, he will be a star here. But yeah, go ahead, Bubba, with the rest of the room.
And here recently, I believe it was Coach Houston in a post-practice interview was talking about how Winston Wright, had it actually been a game, he would have perhaps taken a kickoff to the house. And I mentioned he did that twice at West Virginia. One of those being against Baylor. I know you can find that one on YouTube. And that was, I think, the first play that I saw once we landed Winston Wright, and I was trying to see some film. In addition to Anthony Smith and Winston Wright, you have guys returning like Chase Sowell, who definitely shined a year ago despite the lack of offense. So you can imagine what he'll do, when there are other threats on the field. In addition to him, Jari Patterson was a guy that you could tell John David Baker, if he really felt like he was underutilized. So very intrigued to see how Jari Patterson will be used, be it in addition to a wide receiver, perhaps also some jet sweeps. Same thing, even though he's obviously a running back, and Javius Bond, and getting the ball in his hand in a variety of ways. You have a guy in Kerry King who came back faster than anyone Coach Houston said he had ever seen from the ACL injury. You remember that happened a week, or I think it was even during game week last year, when we were getting ready for Michigan. So you also have Keelan Robinson, the Kansas transfer. True freshman Yannick Smith. I know he's just an unbelievable athlete. It'll be interesting to see if he sees some action, or if he if he plays more than 4 games and uses that red shirt or not. And then another guy you've heard mentioned a lot is Brock Spalding, kind of coming into his own. He's played in the past, but now I think he's ready to take on a much larger role.
Yeah, I would say with as many wide receivers as JDB wants to play, I bet you Yannick does not get redshirted. you mentioned so well, obviously last year a standout in a miserable season, transferred here from Colorado. He's injured right now. Time frame for that is 4 to 6 weeks. The injury occurred 2 weeks ago now, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Probably, most definitely, we won't see him for Norfolk State, but we may see him against ODU. The sooner we can get so well back on the field, the better. He's a difference maker, and particularly, Bubba, like you said, now with some other weapons on the dang football field, it'll be really interesting to see what he can do. When he's used, what I think Sowell's role should be as a possession receiver, a guy that will catch the ball every time, kind of a guy who was the guy here a couple years ago. The transfer from he was a Tidewater kid, transfer here from Toledo.
Isaiah Winstead.
Yeah, kind of a Winstead type guy that's a great possession guy, catch anything thrown at him. Or Bobby Good from years gone by is really what I think so well could be with other playmakers on the field. So looking forward to getting him back healthy. He was a real bright spot last year.
Yeah, just one quick point, guys. With this, we're talking about a lot of different people here, personnel, multiple tight ends, multiple wide receivers. The thing is, this type of system is going to lend itself to more guys playing. Up tempo, we're going to go fast. All these guys are going to play. They're all going to play a vital role this year. And I think you're going to see some of these younger guys contribute too. But in this type of system, when you're going fast, you need to be able to rotate guys in and out. And so guys like Brock Spalding, we haven't seen much from him. He's going to play a key part. Jari Patterson's one to me where he's been in this system now. Well, he's been in this program for multiple years, and you could tell he's got ability. The light hasn't necessarily come on yet, or last year it didn't. He's a guy that you really need to rely on in the slot. So everybody's going to have to step up. I think the talent's there. Now it's just you just have to make plays on Saturdays, and I think these guys are ready to do that.
One thing to keep in mind, though, compared to the last time we ran an up-tempo scheme like this, the substitution rules, as it's been for several years now, if you sub, the defense gets a chance to sub as well. So you'll recall, with Lincoln Riley, sometimes we were snapping the ball in excess of 100 times per game. And I remember snapping the ball, against the Tar Heels, and they'd have 8 guys on the field.
Yeah, too bad you can't do that still, but rules have been changed. They will hold the ball on you, give your defense a chance to sub if you sub.
And the reason I brought that up is because, yes, we want to play a lot of guys, but at the same time, John David Baker said, we try not to sub very much during a series because, if we sub, the defense has that chance to sub as well, and prevents us from going as fast and utilizing our tempo to the max.
Yeah.
All right, you guys are you done with wide
receivers?
Yeah,
let's shift over to defense.
Yeah, overall, guys, I'm really excited about the defense. I know, Matt, you and I are more defensive guys. The defense is just rock solid. Where do you guys want to start? You want to start with the D-line first?
Sure.
Yeah, I think you got to start with that defensive line. When Mike Houston got here, it was a wreck, and you had some good players there, like Alex Turner,
Jalen Price.
Yeah, you had some 2 or 3 at least good players, but no depth. So those guys just got worn down there in the second half of games. But now, we took our lumps there. You think back to 2021, when Georgia State and some others ran all over us when we were a bunch of true freshmen or redshirt freshmen, and what App State did to us, when they had 5 or 6 year senior guys, 5th or 6th year senior guys, I should say, and now in the last couple years as well as this year, you're really seeing the fruits of that labor and those investments that were made all those years ago. Guys like Chad Stevens, Surad Ware, Deontay Johnson, Elijah Morris, J.D. Lampley. I mean, there's so many guys that have played so much football. I know, Matt, you can certainly elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, Elijah Morris, it feels like he's been here for 100 years, right? Like
he played with you, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was a freshman when I was.
He was on the scout team.
I mean, just a solid, dependable guy up front. I really like this defensive line. Chad Stevens is a playmaker. He really came on last year. I think now we have depth up front. Talking about rotating guys and utilizing your depth. We have like a guy like CJ Mims, who is on the younger end, but by all accounts, very talented. He's going to have an opportunity to play this year. You have the transfer from Ohio State. Big body up front. So, man, use all of them, rotate, keep guys fresh. I think when you look at the strength of this team, it's the defensive front. And they bring experience, but they're also very disciplined. When you watch them play, very disciplined group that's been tested over the years. And, I expect a huge year from that defensive front. Not just the linemen, but the DNs, the edge rushers, a guy like, I don't know if we want to lump in Raheem Craig into this group transfer from Louisville, but by all accounts, he's a guy who can bring some speed rush off the edge, Bubba. So,
yep, he's one that we failed to mention earlier when we were talking about those portal guys. And Raheem Craig, I believe he's from the western part of the state, not too far from me, about a little over an hour up the road, Alexandria Central High School. Like Matt said, began his career for the Louisville Cardinals. Pretty highly regarded coming out of high school. And we've heard a lot of good things about him. I know actually, ran into, I believe it's his uncle or cousin, at a convenience store in Salisbury, of all places, back on the day of the spring game. And, he thought I was headed to the spring game, unfortunately not able to get there, but just for the baseball. But I told him that, yes, sir, I'm a season ticket to what Raheem can bring to the table.
Yeah, D line is should be super solid. A lot of depth there, a lot of experience. I think you bring in the transfers, if you like, as mentioned, to add even more depth and experience. And that is one place that I really don't have any concerns. Our D line should be excellent. Was excellent against the run last year. I expect it to be again this year, and we'll be better rushing the passer because of the additions like the young man from Louisville. So yeah, the D line. Will it be 08, 09 level? Maybe not quite that good, but this will be the best D line we've had in a long time.
And guys,
and another guy that's very versatile that we failed to mention is Sam Danka. I don't think we mentioned his name. At least I know I didn't. 6'5", 6'6", 230 pounds. He's a guy that can also drop back into coverage to provide a variety of looks and extremely long arms and just. He's a guy to keep an eye on as a potential breakout year that has certainly contributed in the past, but take on a key role this year.
I was going to ask you guys, I know we talked about the numbers for offensive line. On D-line, off the top of my head, I counted 9 guys that could play a huge part. Am I off on that?
Maybe more.
Like that felt rock solid about, but I mean, you guys would have more of the expertise, but that just off the top of my head, I counted 9.
Yeah, I mean, a guy like J.D. Lampley, right, Dave? I mean, he's
yeah.
one. I don't know if maybe we have mentioned his name. I don't know,
yeah,
but
we did.
Yeah.
Man, he's another one. I mean, to your point, Dave, there's a lot of depth there, so you feel great about that room.
J.D. Lampley's a guy that really. You saw him go from right around 300 pounds, give or take, and drop down to what, 240s? I don't know. He lost a ton of weight. Now he's back up 260, 265. At least that's where he's listed. So he may not be quite that heavy, but moves very well. And I recall, it seems like he had a good game last year down at FAU, and I'll never forget him and I think Deontay Johnson. And I'm trying to remember who else. Remember they kind of reenacted that. I think it was Superman meme. Or Spider-Man meme.
Oh, where they
Remember?
were pointing at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we, if we're done with the defensive line room, the other part of that front seven is the linebackers. Bubba, you mentioned a little earlier via text message, you're a little concerned about our depth at linebackers if there's any injuries.
Yeah, Zakai Barker, Coach Houston on the Brian Bailey show last week said Zakai, not only on the defense but on the entire football team, had perhaps grown the most since last season. So really keep an eye out for what you see from Zakai Barker. He will be the one majority of the time probably communicating with Blake Harrell on that helmet mic. And I mentioned we'd circle back to that impact on the defense. Won't spend a ton of time on this, but I know Zakai and Coach Harrell has referenced this already during camp. He just said Zakai told him, "Hey, if they're going tempo, just give me the call. Don't try to give me any other information but the call. But if they're not going tempo, then yes, throw another piece or two of information there." And but Zakai, I believe, a Georgia kid. Then you have Mike Edwards, Georgia Southern transfer, who's played a lot of football and was a reserve back in 2022. Last year, saw more significant action, and I look for him to make another jump this year. And then you have Damian, I believe they call him Day Wilson, originally from North Carolina, the Missouri transfer. Who didn't have a ton of experience for Mizzou, probably had played between those 3 seasons. He'll be a redshirt junior. I think he probably played maybe about 200 snaps as a Missouri Tiger, and did have the chance to start against Georgia and Florida. Had probably 20 tackles during his time in Columbia. So, but I think he's a guy that could be a significant contributor. Coach Houston referenced Julian Davis, primarily a special teams guy, and a few defensive snaps from a season ago. Those are some guys to keep an eye on there.
Yeah, so a little bit of depth issues at linebacker, but that's there's talent there. So you hate to say the weak spot on the defense. I guess it would be, but it's still not overly concerning to me as long as we stay healthy.
Right, that's key. Is the depth is issue, not the talent. It's the depth, right, guys?
Yeah, Matt, you should be the linebacker expert, my friend. So why don't you comment on this?
I feel good about that. I really do. I feel good about middle linebacker. I think you have a bunch of guys who can really run. That's kind of what jumps out to me. I mean, they're not massive linebackers, 250-pound guys, but they can really move. And that's what you need in this day and age in college football when you're facing these spread offenses, guys who can really cover. But they can run. And I feel good about them. I think there's a lot of young talent behind them, guys that are true freshmen and redshirt freshmen, like a Julian Davis, for example. But you feel really good about your first 4 guys there, and they're all going to play a ton. So, again, another room I honestly have really no concerns about, to be perfectly honest. I have not concerns, but for me, I have more questions at the safety position than I do linebacker.
Well, we want to jump into safety then, Matt. What are your questions?
Is that a nice segue? We'll let Bubba
absolutely. That was great.
Thing, and then and then I can maybe jump in.
As we're starting to talk about the defensive backs, because there are at least 2 or 3 of these guys that have a lot of flexibility that can play either corner or safety. I think we're best to start off talking about the defensive backs with Savone Revel, aka Siobhan Revel. We found out that correct pronunciation of his name here since last season, but Savone, he was offered
If
six
he's
figures,
making
I
the
believe
NIL,
300. Say that
go
again.
ahead, Bubba. Go ahead.
So,
Well, I
so
was going to call. Well, I'll just make my joke because it's going to fit now. If he's making the NIL money that he supposedly is making now at ECU, the highest paid player on the team per things I've heard, then I'm going to just call him Mr. Revel.
yeah, like Coach Houston said, he said he can pronounce his name however he wants to as long as he's playing to his potential. But he turned down 300,000 plus from an SEC program. He's a guy that he's what 6'2", 6'3", runs well, long arms. Your prototypical probably, and, the just all those measurables that you would look for in a NFL corner, and I'm very excited about him choosing to remain loyal to the Pirates. Obviously, you have Isaiah Brown Murray that played a lot of snaps last year. I recall early on, after perhaps a little bit of a rough start defensively. It seems like some of that early success may not have been against him, but nonetheless, after SMU threw the ball well early last year in that Thursday night game, IBM made some nice plays. I recall a PBU or two down in the end zone in the boneyard by IBM, and so you have the two of them at corner. You also have have a guy like D Nash, Dontavius Nash, the North Carolina transfer. He was at safety a year ago, had a pick six against UTSA, but he can play either corner or safety. And then, Matt, I'll let you go ahead and continue to talk about the DBs. I have to step away for a moment.
Yeah, I think you feel really good about DB. You have guys in that room, like a D Nash who, like Bubba said, he just moved over from safety, but it sounds like he's having a really good fall camp. Wilson Lamp, the transfer from West Virginia. So you have a number of guys. I mean, the
Corner's
questions.
solid.
What's that?
The corner position is solid.
Yeah. I feel very good about what we have there, and I think right now there's some questions at nickel with McKinstry, who's been a little banged up this fall camp, and you now have, like I mentioned earlier, Gavin Gibson, a transfer from Maryland, who's looks like he's running with the first team right now. Questions in terms of not about his ability, but he's a new face to this defense. He's new to the system, so you hope he's ready to go in week one. So to be determined with that room there.
Yeah, you mean safety or corner or what? When you
so
say
in terms of the nickel, Kyle, I was referring
nickel
to
position. Okay, gotcha.
When I if you want to jump into safety, I mentioned earlier I had some questions there. I think the questions are just, I think the free safety position is still kind of up for grabs a little bit. Sounds like you have a number of guys kind of battling it out there, and possibly the same as strong safety. But you feel you definitely have numbers there. It's just a matter of finding the starter, who's going to take that role and excel with it. So I don't know how closely you guys have followed that room, but you have a number of guys kind of fighting for those spots there.
And Matt, talk about that very point, because we're going to be obviously coming out of fall camp, and we'll talk about practice here in a second, but talk about that very thing, how it's actually a great thing. You hear that in business, but competition is a great thing, and that keeps you on your toes. It's not like I'll never forget what Coach Shankweiler said to us in 2019. He told us very abruptly, he's like, very candidly, telling his guys on the offensive line, just because you're a starter at East Carolina doesn't mean that you're, necessarily a great player. It just means you're a starter at that school. And so that's my thing with these guys. Like, it's great to have competition, not only depth-wise, but obviously it keeps you on your toes, right? I mean, when you were fighting for playing time, that's a great thing, and not just like, oh, yeah, I'm a star at whatever school or smaller school that's coming to East Carolina, or a high school or JUCO. Hey, you're here at East Carolina, you're in Greenville now, you got to play, you got to earn it.
Yeah, competition is great. It brings out the best of you in a lot of different ways, especially practice in the off season. But the thing is, a position coach can really make or break that. Like when you play on game day, you can't be worried about mistakes. You know what I mean? Like you can't be worried, hey, if I make one mistake, if I miss a tackle, is this guy going to yank me from the game and put in the backup? So competition is great, but the way your coaches coach, you have to be able to play instinctively and make plays and not be worried about making mistakes, because the guy behind you is going to take your spot. So it can work for you, it can work against you too. And I've had coaches that fit both of those descriptions. But yeah, you hope it brings out the best in these guys.
No doubt.
Yes.
So overall, when you're talking about the D-backs with safety and corner, I still think overall we're pretty rock solid compared to where we were a few years ago, where you just like held your breath every time there was a pass.
I think we're solid out there. I really do. I think there's enough depth there. I think we've worked the portal enough. I think there's enough guys that, as Bubba mentioned, can play both corner and safety. That I think we'll be solid there. Bubba, did you want to break down any more, or if you're back on your mic?
Yeah, Matt may have mentioned these guys, but just to make sure, Omar Rogers, Jordan Huff, Devin King at safety, and you have, I talked about, or Kyle actually brought up the financial commitment that Team Boneyard made to Savone Revel, and definitely necessary, but and well earned, and appreciate his loyalty, but also that relationship that he has with his position coach, Jules Montanar. He cited that as one of the reasons that he stayed at ECU. But then at safety, I don't believe we've mentioned this yet. Coaching those safeties, none other than Damon Magazoo, Pirate great, who is certainly most well known. He said he's tired of hearing about it, but the interception of Russell Wilson in 2010, but definitely several other key plays, and just a consistent contributor for the Pirates during his career from 2010 to 2013. It's great to have Mags back. And Coach Harrell is already giving him a ton of praise, just saying he's exactly what I thought we were getting, and everything I'd heard as far as just being a football junkie, and having been a coach on the field back when he was a player.
Anyway, everybody knows who his dad is. So, dad, a longtime NFL coach, and obviously Mags not only the pedigree from coaching and is a great coach himself, but will have the passion, that extra passion to play in here, being a Pirate, to motivate those safeties. I feel pretty good about our quarters and safeties room. Matt mentioned having some concern about the nickel position because of some injury. How do you feel about that position?
Yeah, Matt, I know you mentioned, what can you, is Kingston McKinstry, was he done for the year, or does he have a chance?
It sounds like he got injured, Bubba, early in camp.
But he should be back.
Hope so. I mean, hope so.
Well, hopefully. Okay.
I don't think it's anything long term, put it that way. Sounds like he was banged up. And you feel, if he's healthy, you feel really good about what you have there. So we'll see we'll see just, as time goes on here, how that plays out.
Right. You guys want to transition over quickly and talk about special teams? You have Luke Larson back.
He's
as punter, and you also have, what, Luke's about 32, 33 now or something.
Yeah, I think it's like 34.
He's older.
You have Andrew Conrad, and Andrew Conrad, I think, he was kind of a victim of the lack of success. We had the previous year at place kicker in the kicking woes, but he was 18 of 25 last year, 10 of 11 from 40 yards and in. So under 40 or 40 and in, pretty much automatic. Not as consistent as you would have liked to have seen from beyond 40, but he did make 7 field goals longer than 40 yards with a long of 51. 7-11 from 40 to 49, and then 50 plus. He was 1 for 3 with that make from 51, like I mentioned. So if he can just show a little more consistency on those longer field goals, you got to feel pretty good about Andrew Conrad. Punt returner, kick returner. I know Winston Wright. I mentioned what he brings to the table in returning kicks. Also, Javius Bond. You have, I know Brock Spalding. He's been catching some punts, it seems like. And then also the wide receiver, I believe it's Josh Murphy, Mason Garcia's high school teammate from down there at Carolina Forest. I think he catches some punts. But I don't think there's any shortage of guys that can do that well. It'll be interesting to see who we put out there 2 weeks from now. I think kick return, I'll go with if we have 2 guys back deep, I'll go with Winston Wright and Javius Bond. If we have just one, I'll say Winston Wright.
Yeah, and if you paid attention to Coach during spring camp or fall camp rather, he's been very big on special teams. Been very complimentary of our new special teams coordinator, who I believe came over from Pittsburgh. Just the way the special teams has looked in general, Houston seems extremely positive on special teams this year.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Jay. Yeah, Kyle, great point. Mike Houston's been very complimentary about this new special teams coach and the direction.
Andre Powell.
Yep.
Thank you. So that is really good to hear, because we need to be good on special teams at ECU. We need to be. I mean, we just can't make mistakes on that side of the ball. What did Ruff used to call it?
Three sides of the ball, yeah.
Well, 4 sides. There's 4 sides of the ball.
Sideline.
That's right.
That's right. Ruff was great at that stuff, his sound bites. But we can't afford to be even average on that side of the ball if we're gonna try to make a strong push this year. And again, go back to that 8 games. But that is definitely good news. Love the ability that Winston Wright has in the kick return game. He's shifty. He's that type of guy. He's like that shifty type of guy that's, we used to say hard to tackle in a phone booth, because he can just make you miss. He can cut. So really looking forward to what we see there.
A guy like Keith Stokes.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Keith Stokes, he doesn't have like he's certainly not slow, obviously, but he's not a Chris Johnson or a Anthony Smith kind of guy as far as running a 4.3 40, but he's probably more of a 4.5 guy, which is still plenty fast, but more shifty than fast.
Well, Keith Stokes was a beast at East Carolina. He was an absolute beast.
Yeah, he was.
So, man, I hope, fingers crossed that Winston Wright, that we see some of that.
Yeah, and you make a great point, Matt. I was going to add to yours is that very fact of when we're talking about 8 wins, you want to go to a bowl game, you want to have a great season, a winning season, then the special teams we've talked about ad nauseum because we haven't had a chance to have our first game yet. And our coaches, I know they're saying, well, Dave, we want 2 more weeks, but the very fact that we have a lot of 50-50 games on the schedule, and you know how you could have had last year 2-10. However, we didn't have the offense to do that.
Dave, you're cutting in and out on my end.
You got me?
Yeah, the same on my end.
Yeah, but what Dave's talking about is the schedule a little bit and how we went 2-10 last year. A lot of 50-50 games this year. And let's quickly talk about the schedule as we start to try to wrap this thing up. You obviously open up with Norfolk State, which, unless it's an absolute disastrous one, we should win. But then after that, everybody talks, 8-4 regular season. It gets tough after that. ODU was a bowl team last year. They beat App State in Norfolk last year, and we got to go to Norfolk game 2. Game 3, you got App State. App State has owned us in recent years. App State is the favorite to win the Sun Belt along with Texas State this year. So they'll be favored against us. After that, you go to Liberty. Liberty's favored to win Conference USA. Won Conference USA last year. Played Oregon in the New Year's Six bowl game on New Year's Day. Then after that, you got UTSA, who some people think may win the conference. They're up there with Tulane and Memphis for that discussion. So we got a tough stretch after Norfolk State to start the season. If you want to sniff 8 wins, you better at least start 2-2.
Amen. You have to be, we're not going into politics, but as far as how do you get the path, Matt, to 8 wins? How do you get the path to 8 wins? You cannot have a terrible September and expect 8 wins. If you go 8-0, I mean, there's the only way you could do that. But anyway, and then one thing I want to add to guys this week while we have a chance. I know we don't want to look too far ahead, but the AAC announced the 2025 opponents. And I think actually it's going to be good for us. And then obviously we have a road game against State. We have home against Campbell, road Coastal Carolina, and home BYU. So 2025. And then as far as the AAC schedule goes, we have home games against Army, Charlotte, Memphis, Tulsa, and away will be Florida Atlantic, Temple, UTSA, and Tulane.
Yeah, I don't want to look ahead to 2025 just yet. 2024 hasn't even started, but I do think it's an appealing home schedule with BYU, Army, and Memphis coming to Greenville. I think it's an appealing schedule overall. NC State, Coastal on the road. Would like to maybe trade somebody like UTSA out for UAB, USF, something like that. But we'll get to next year when he gets here. But overall, relatively appealing schedule. And if we can go at least 7-5 this year, maybe 8-4 or better, who knows? But at least 7-5 with the home schedule next year, with having BYU coming to town, Army, Memphis. I think we can be up above 16,000 season tickets next year. But it's going to be predicated on what we do this year.
No doubt. They're doing well this year, guys. I was going to add really quick. We were at the 15,000 mark or close to it. I'll check with them this week, and I'll let you guys know before we go into that final week before week 1 with Norfolk State. But we're looking really good as far as season tickets, around the same amount. So that made me feel good. There hasn't been the drop off like I was afraid of, especially considering the schedule is not what some casual fans would like it to be. Some people only buy season tickets when it's the big names, the ACC schools, or this attractive schedule with AAC schools. And some of those people will definitely buy more tickets definitely next year. So if you have a great year, you not only have the bounce, the bump, if you will, from this year having a great season, but also the home schedule next year is going to be great too.
Yeah, no doubt. And, looking at the schedule this year, like one of the things I keep all the publications, I hear people talking about it is, look for ECU to really take off the last 5 games of the season. I keep hearing that. And honestly, it's driving me nuts. Listen, the first month of the season, like there's no reason why we can't win these games, right? Now, they're tough games. I totally agree with you guys. Tough game. At ODU, certainly not a cakewalk. Obviously, App State at home. We get them at home. And then at Liberty, look, tough games. But are they winnable games? Yes, they are. At some point, we need to start winning these games. So I'm really looking at that first month. UTSA, always a solid team. Charlotte, I don't want to hear a thing about Charlotte. That was the most embarrassing loss in ECU history last year.
A&T says hi.
Yeah, good point. But looking forward to that matchup at Army as well, and encourage all the ECU fans to try to come up to New York for that game in October. That's just going to be a perfect setting up there. Hopefully you guys can make it up for that. But tough schedule, very tough schedule. But when I look at all these games, when I look at every one, right, they're all winnable. Like there's not one game I see where I'm like a Michigan last year in the opener. They're all winnable games. So, that's why Mike Houston's getting paid the big bucks. That's why we're giving guys NIL money and we're bringing in portal guys. And, the talent is here to win these games. We just have to go out and take care of business.
And Matt, with the one point I would add to that is your generation. I know it's not fair to compare eras, and I'm not trying to do that. But
And Dave cut out. I don't know what his thought was, but
can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back now.
Okay. My point is that when you guys went in, you had the mentality to win those games. What does it take for this group with Houston what does it take with him to get over the hump as far as the players really? I know it's year 6 and I don't want to use the term buy-in, but what does it take for those guys, those 50-50 games that one player, what do we have to do to get to that level where you guys were, what we call them giant killers in the 90s?
Yeah. Well, all the great ECU teams going back to the 70s and the early 80s and the 90s, all those teams, the thing that they had in common was that if you told them they were the underdog, they wanted to prove you wrong. Like, they wanted to make you eat those words. You want to challenge us? Guess what? We can play football too, and you're going to get our best shot. That's what all those teams had in common. Yet to be proved at this point if this team has that ability. Now, I think they certainly have the talent. But it does take an attitude and it takes an ego. Like, you want to tell me a team's better than us? Guess what? You're going to get my best shot. And hopefully this team has that ability. I'm optimistic right now that they do.
And hopefully Carmelo is too. He's growling again. So James Keller says, guys, best I felt about Pirate football since 2014, which was Lincoln Riley's last year. And by the way, before we get out of here quickly, we have a new track coach, Virgil Givens. So good luck to him. We've had a long tradition of track being great. And guys, I want to mention to you guys really quick this year, for this week, for people wondering about the practice schedule. Tomorrow is media day for those who don't know, in the 10 o'clock hour. So 10 to 11 will be in Townbank Tower working hard at that. So look out for we're going to be working on a media day special for you guys. We'll have that in the plans for this week. Tuesday is practice, and they'll have practice, but there's no media Tuesday. Wednesday, of course, is practice in the morning time. Thursday is completely closed to the media. Friday is closed to the media, but those are all in the morning times. And once we get, I know this sounds like sorry for the norms of the world and different ones that think I repeat myself about the indoor practice facility. The reason I bring that up a lot is because I'm ready for it to break ground, and then you could practice anytime you want. You don't have to worry about. If you wonder why they practice in the morning time, because if you try to practice in the afternoon, you'll have like Montgomery in 2018, where you have 9 times you get rained out. And that I felt bad. I did feel bad about, for Montgomery, stuff like that. But I did feel bad for that, but not for a lot of other things. But weather is one of them. But guys, do you have anything before we get out of here? I appreciate huge audience tonight. A lot of people commenting and staying with us the whole time. I want to give them a shout out. For almost 2 hours being with this, with a group of guys from the Sports Objective, and give a shout out to the whole team being back together. We put the band back together, and you guys are awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. Whether you're listening live or you're listening to this in archive, Dave will be at Media Day tomorrow along with I think Alan Vick. So we'll have Media Day coverage. We'll have Media Day coverage, as you mentioned, at some point this week. We'll put something out. And just stay tuned. Next week we will probably next Sunday night we will be previewing the Norfolk State game in more detail, and stay tuned all season for our previews and our post game coverage and any other content we might decide to throw out there. I got to get with Mr. Stevie Fly and see if we're going to return for another year of just another sports podcast, and whether it's weekly or bi-weekly. But
yeah, by the way, I want to give a shout out to Sonny and Semenza, I think, coming back this year. I talked to Sonny a week or so ago, so he's looking forward to being back. He thinks a lot of Matt, so looking forward to that show. Did want to tell you guys.
Sonny's the man, Jason.
Yeah, he is. Jason Halter is the man. I did get a text today. Coach Connors decided to just do a gospel only, faith-based podcast only. So we appreciate his 2 years here with us, and we look forward to him having a great podcast there about faith. He's doing a great job. Did a great job for us, and so want to give him a shout out for helping us over the last couple of years. And we have some other content we'll be putting out during the football, basketball, baseball season that we'll be working out. Thank you, Norm. Norm is a dear listener and a great. Thank you, Elliot. You guys, there's so many. Thanks to John and Robert. There's so many. Brandon. So many great things. Christian, Elliot. That's right. All hit the thumbs up so the show can go out everywhere to watch. And there has been a lot tonight. So. A lot to talk about. And again, before we get out of here, I just want to mention on Friday night, make sure you listen to myself and Hank Tice. We have the Martin County High School football. Looking forward to that, guys, as well. And good luck to all the high school football teams that haven't started yet. And good luck. We'll have week 0. We'll be talking about that on Sunday night as well. The first week of college football. Hard to believe. I'm glad it's here. Yesterday, I was miserable with no football. I wanted football so bad yesterday. All right, we'll get out of here where this is our preview we had for the 2024 season. How about that?
Yeah. Before we close this out, I knew you didn't see the private chat.
I didn't. I'm sorry.
No problem. Shout out to ECU women's soccer. Head coach Gary Higgins, veterans like Abby Soa. They went to Raleigh in their season opener tonight, defeated the Wolfpack 1-0. So. Congrats, ladies. Excellent start to the season.
Abby Soa
Nicely done.
Connecticut. Thank you.
There you go. And the great state, Commonwealth of Connecticut, our dear friend Semenza is from. All right, we'll get out of here. Thank you so much. And we'll see you back in the next few days with our media day special. Until next time, any breaking news, you'll hear it at once, a special on social media. I'm Dave Richmond for all the guys. We'll get out of here. Good night, everybody. And as always, go Pirates.
You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.